Hello, welcome to Strictly Money at the News Forum, where all voices matter. I'm Saijal Patel. I've talked about longevity risk on this show many times. The reason being there is a growing concern that many retirees will outlive their savings and that the current solutions are not solving one of the biggest problems they face. That is, how to convert retirement savings into a monthly income that's A, affordable, and B, will last a lifetime. If you share these concerns, then you'll want to stay tuned because my next guest has done a lot of research in this space and has come up with a potential solution that's garnering worldwide attention. Bonnie-Jeanne MacDonald is the Director of Financial Security Research at the National Institute on Aging with Ryerson University, and she joins me now. Bonnie-Jeanne, it's great to have you on.
Thank you so much, Saijal. Great to be here.
So set the stage for us because I read your research and you rightly said, there is widespread concern because we are living longer and there's a greater dependency on private savings. So much so that there's a lot of insecurity amongst our elderly population. So how dire is the situation?
Yeah, we have done surveys at the National Institute on Aging. We do find that people feel more insecure than ever before. And if you just kind of take a step back, it's pretty clear why. Retirement financial security does really mean being able to maintain your standard of living throughout retirement. But if we look at the Canadian retirement income system, retirees are only getting about $20,000 in pension income, and that's from OAS, GIS, and CPP. And the rest should be coming from private savings. For right now, 80% of Canadians in the private sectors, they're not even in a workplace pension plan. So more and more, we're being told to save more. But of course, when it comes for preparing for retirement, having more money in our RSPs or our RIFs or in a DC plan, they lack that critical piece is that they're all pension plans that actually lack a pension. So that's really where the anxiety is coming from.
Is the real issue, Bonnie Jean, that people are not saving enough? And I read that median savings is around $100,000, which doesn't seem like a lot, given that cost of living has gone up. Is it that, or is it that they don't know how to spread that savings and generate income to last a lifetime? So is it more of an accumulation issue or a decumulation issue, or is it both?
I think it's both. So, I mean, from the private savings perspective, so more people are out of the DB plans, there are more DC accounts. And what we found is these private savings have gone up by about 30% over the last 20 years. So that's a good thing in today's dollar. So people are definitely saving more. The anxiety usually comes, we find financial vulnerability isn't always about how much money you actually have. It's actually about not knowing that money's going to be there. So, because of this financial vulnerability that people going into retirement have, what we also see in the data, which is really fascinating, is that people don't often even use their money. You'll see people will withdraw only their minimum risks. So, they're not even enjoying their money. And that's because they don't know if they're going to have the income there should they need it at age 80, 85, or even into their 90s.
Yeah, it's so interesting because decumulation is probably what I have found we're not focusing enough time on and energy on. Certainly you are, but we don't often talk about it so much in media. Why is it so hard? Like what there's because there are so many unknown factors, aren't there?
Yeah, there are so many unknowns. I mean, there's kind of legacy issues why decumulation has gotten really zero attention by policymakers, by employers, and by advisors. And that's really because where the population was at. We can think of the baby boomers. It's a quarter of our population. They've been moving through their employment. But now we're at this critical phase where they are at retirement and they have to start making those decisions that will affect them 20, 30, and even 40 years into the future. And from our research, what we're really finding is they're facing, in a way, I'd say a perfect storm. And the reason why they're facing a perfect storm is that, again, we've had this trend away from workplace pension plans. We also have a historically low interest rate environment. And what that will mean in retirement is that income is going down. But while income is going down, the price tag of retirement is actually going up. And that is because people are living longer than ever before. But more important is that baby boomers were actually the first generation to have relatively few children, so much so that we expect that those children won't be there to provide these services for seniors as they get older and they need help in their homes. And actually, in Canada and around the world, the vast majority of care for seniors has always been done by the family, but we don't think this will continue. So, you kind of layer that on top of the fact that we're going to have an aging population. There's going to be pressures on health budgets
Right.
and on the federal budgets. Put all these things together, we really know that we are facing a little bit of a perfect storm, and
Yeah.
this is why people going to retirement just need to plan better than ever before.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Welcome back. Bonnie-Jeanne, you and your colleagues have come up with a potential solution to try to solve this longevity issue. And before we get into that, let's run through some of the current solutions that are out there that try to solve this problem. The first one is defined benefit plans, because it does seem to address the issue. So is the problem that there just aren't enough of those plans out there?
Yeah, precisely. So there's been a shift really in the private sector away from defined benefit pension plans to either group RSPs or defined contribution plans. So the vast majority of private sector workers do not have access to DB plans.
Okay. Life annuities. This is a big one. It tries to solve the problem, but there's pros and there are cons. Can you walk us
Right.
through that?
Exactly. So Canadians, as we discussed earlier, they basically have been saving in their private accounts. And we actually, in our research, found that there's $1.5 trillion of registered savings in either DC plans and RSP. So there's a lot of saving there. And Canadians really have two options at retirement, what to do with those savings. It's either to buy an annuity from a life insurance company or to move their personal savings into a retirement income fund, or RIF, registered retirement income fund. The benefits of the annuity is that they provide that longevity protection, so that they have the security of knowing that this income will be there until they actually pass away. The downfall of the annuities is that people just are not attracted to them. They're traditionally, they've not been popular. Approximately less than 1% of people actually buy into annuities. But again, they are a great option for those who are looking for more security.
Yeah, and with annuities too, you're getting that sort of guaranteed income, but that might mean that it's somewhat suppressed, right? Which is what our registered retirement income fund solves.
Yeah, so almost all Canadians move their money into registered retirement
Yeah.
income funds, but there they need to individually manage the funds investments and drawdown. They also are often face very high fees in a registered retirement income fund. The real challenge with the registered retirement income fund is the fact that you have to take a minimum withdrawal each year. And according to modeling, that would mean that by about age 95, the payments will go down dramatically. So about 1 in 4 Canadians with money, they'll live beyond age 95. So you basically have a very good probability of living beyond your RIF.
Okay. Now we do have a chart that kind of shows both sides, annuities and RIFs, and then your proposal, this dynamic pension pool. Can you talk about this and what your team is proposing and how this solves some of those issues?
Right. So dynamic pensions, they're not new. They've existed around the world, and they're really seen now internationally as the solution to the pension crisis. So what they're basically enabling retirees to do is to pool their money together. So in fact, they're actually keeping their money in a pension plan, but then they also dynamically share the longevity risk. And by doing so, they're actually able to get higher expected returns by also maintaining a stable source of pension income. So basically, what DP pools are doing is that they're allowing retirees to stay in the capital markets, but they're also giving longevity protection. And they're able to do that by basically pooling the risk so that each year the pension could go up and down. But so they have a fundamentally different structure than the current options, because in an annuity, you're basically forced into a very conservative investment strategy. And in the RIF, you're going to potentially run out of money. So it's really taking the best key features from both, bringing them together and creating a new product that is going to solve a very big problem for Canada.
Okay, so we have about a minute before commercial break, and we'll talk obviously more about DP plans. But when you say pooling, what do investors or potential investors in this have to be aware of?
Well, the one thing they have to be aware of is the pension plan can fluctuate. It's not like an annuity where you get that guaranteed income. But at the same time, what we do know from research is that people in retirement, they can tolerate a little fluctuation. But what they can't tolerate is running out of money. So this is why this is such a powerful solution, because it's such an improvement over the RIF, which is currently the way that the majority of Canadians are drawing down their retirement savings.
And if I'm correct, is this similar to variable payment life annuities?
They're
Or is that
similar
different?
in the respect that you're sharing, your payments are attached to the investments,
Okay.
but the difference is that the mortality is also being pulled together, and what that means is that the whole group, it's you can almost think of it as a cooperative DB plan.
Right.
So normally
Okay.
DB plans, you have the sponsor taking on the risk,
Yeah.
but in this, the risk is being shared.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break again, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Strictly Money. I'm here with Bonnie-Jeanne MacDonald, Director of Financial Security Research at the National Institute on Aging with Ryerson University. Bonnie-Jeanne, before the break, you were explaining how dynamic pension pools work. Would this be like another tax shelter or an umbrella like an RSP? Is the idea that a person would open up a DB plan through a bank, say?
Yeah, potentially. So right now it's interesting because we have these ideas, they seem theoretical, and the question is, would they actually work? And in Canada, actually, UBC pension plan has been running one of these since 1967. What happened with UBC is that they were grandfathered under some previous legislation. And actually, this idea was so successful at UBC that Q Super, which is one of the oldest and largest international DC plans, it's in Australia. They actually went to UBC, they adopted their idea, and now they're offering potentially one of the biggest DC plans in the world. So we can see it's really an important idea that's gaining this kind of international traction. So here we are in Canada, we have this amazing idea that's been run successfully and sustainably over on the West Coast, but other plans were not allowed to offer them, and insurance companies were not allowed to offer them. So this lack of availability really did motivate a lot of people like myself in the industry to think of how can we change the system so that they are available to all Canadians, so that they can have a third option. They don't have to just put their money into annuities or RIFs. They have this third option where they're able to, again, stay invested in the capital markets, get those higher returns, which is so important in today's high inflation rate environment, but also have this kind of long-term security.
Okay, let's go through. We have a board on just ways that this could help. You mentioned that they have choice, right? I'm assuming they have choice of funds. And again, this would be professionally managed by investment managers.
Exactly. So unlike a RIF where you don't have fiduciary responsibility, in pension plans there is a responsibility that the person managing it needs to be looking out for the best interests of the plan members, which is why people like to be in pension plans. So the vision here is that people who join one of these, they would also have that protection where they'd have professionally managed investments. They would also have the fiduciary protection that's just so important, especially if you think of people in retirement when they're becoming more cognitively impaired. They become more and more vulnerable as they get older. It's just so important to have these types of layer of protections.
Okay. It says economies of scale, and this is, I think, an important one. Does that mean that we would see cost efficiencies as well? Because you know how many people pay attention to the fees, right? The management expense ratios.
Absolutely. So in pension plans, they pay a fraction of the fees, and that's because they have more assets, so they can diversify. They can also have access to private investments, which retail investors do not have access to. So for all these reasons, this is why large pension plans just can do so much better than a retail investor can do. So this is another huge value added. It's not only the economy of scale of the fees, it's also the access to better investment options.
Okay. How does this fit in with other solutions? Because I can imagine that some people are thinking, you know what, I don't necessarily like the pooling idea. I want to be able to pass on my wealth after I pass away. So wealth transfer becomes important. So is the idea that you would put maybe a portion of this in a dynamic pension plan, but you still have the use of, RIFs or TFSAs if you're thinking about that wealth transfer piece?
Yeah, exactly. So everything would be optional. So people would
Okay.
probably put some of their money. So you can imagine they have their CPP, which is very secure, their old age security. And then on top of that, they would have this type of dynamic pension, which would fluctuate, but would give the longevity protection. And then on top of that, they'd have their RIF accounts, and also their non registered savings and their TFSAs, which are also really good ways to pass on a legacy.
Right. And I guess on the flip side, this solves the other issue that you were saying that people are so worried that they're going to outlive their savings that they're not spending at all. So this obviously gives them a little bit of freedom there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, COVID-19, it's done one thing. It's really been a wake up call to the importance of financial security. And it's also made people more aware of the importance of having income in later life. We ran a survey at the National Institute on Aging. We basically found that uh, the majority of Canadians have changed their mind whether or not they want to go into a nursing homes because of what's happened there,
Right.
basically. And we found that basically 100% of Canadians now say that they want to age in their home. So it's clear what people want to do, but it's certainly not clear how we're going to get there within the current Canadian retirement income system.
And how we're going to support them. All right, we're going to take a commercial break and we'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back. We've been talking about dynamic pensions and pension pools. And Bonnie-Jeanne, how close are we to seeing this become more of a realization, I guess on a national scale, right? Because you said that there's pockets of this. Where are we now?
Yeah, so back in 2018, this was really important research project of mine. And the most important aspect of this was the interest that it held by the industry and pension plans across Canada. And so much so that we basically, at the NIA, we actually took this idea, we spearheaded an advocacy campaign, and we created possibly the largest coalition of pension plan stakeholders in Canada. Together, we wrote a letter to Canada's finance minister. We basically said these type of DP pools should be allowed and accessible by all Canadians. It should not just be in these kind of grandfathered pockets. And much to our amazement, it was actually successful. This was remarkable. It basically the 29th federal budget, they did announce that they would allow them. And so now we're actually working with government and and regulators so as to produce the right type of legislation so this can really fill the gap, which is the missing link in the Canadian retirement income system, is how are we going to help people to get affordable lifetime income going forward.
Do you have a sense of what the government's now looking for and sort of any concerns that they're seeing?
Well, the one concern right now is that the way the legislation is kind of being directed, it's more allowing these to exist only within individual DC pension plans. But I mentioned earlier that there's $1.5 trillion, and only 10% of that is actually even in a DC pension plan. So what we're working on at the NIA is basically to say we want to figure out a way to make this accessible to everybody, and so that we can really solve this accumulation disconnect. Because again, baby boomers are now at the precipice of retirement. They have the wealth and they have the health to make good decisions that can protect their future selves. But we need to actually, within our system, give them the tools to make those good decisions.
Okay. You mentioned that this is already implemented in Australia. Do you have a sense of how that's working?
Oh, it's apparently been incredible. They're actually winning international pension awards for the innovation, and they're having great take up by their members. So it's really been very popular. They have a lot of trust with their members. So of course that trust element is critical,
Yeah.
which is why allowing multiple organizations to offer this who already have trust with their members is also very important.
Is it in the US as well, Bonnie-Jeanne?
So we're quite advanced when it comes to these ideas. We're actually the first country to allow this type of mortality pooling in a mutual fund. And so we're really ahead of the game when it comes to this. Of course, Australia is one exception, but no, in the United States, they still haven't quite allowed this. They do have some grandfathered plans as well, but no, we're definitely ahead when it comes to this type of arrangements.
Okay. What role would the financial services have to play to get ready for this?
Well, the financial service industry, this will be a voluntary product, so it's
Okay.
not going to be nationalized. It's something that people would buy. So the financial and service industry is key to making those connections between people and products, and therefore, I do know that from my conversations with financial planner and advisors and the insurance industry and the banks, it's very collaborative because no matter where people are coming from, they really do see the gap in the system and they do want to fill it. So the I think the most rewarding part of this entire project has been that collaborative effort by all these very thoughtful people across the industry who really do see a need and they do want to help to fix it.
Yeah, I really want to thank you and your colleagues for working on this because I think it's just such important work. We only have about 45 seconds left. Can you just tell me a little bit about the National Institute of Aging and some of the projects that you have been working on?
Yeah, my pleasure. So we started just a number of years ago. We're a think tank at Ryerson University, and we basically, our mandate is a little bit unique. We're trying to solve the challenges and the opportunities that is coming with Canada's aging population, but not just from that traditional financial lens, but really bringing together the whole picture. Because when it comes to successful aging, it's not just about how much money you have, it's about your family, it's about your health. And that's really what I'm passionate to do, is to think of viable holistic solutions that are really going to work. And that's what we do at the National Institute on Aging.
All right. Well, I really appreciate your time today. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Saijal.
Well, if you have some thoughts or questions about today's show, send us an email. I'd love to hear from you. Until then, stay well, stay wise, and stay wealthy. Thanks for watching.